For all you animal lovers out there, listen up. Although the moggy is quite safe, the most famous and beautiful relative is sadly in danger of extinction. The tiger has roamed the planet for millions of years, but due to selfish and ignorant human behaviour, they are diminishing fast. Our next guest is from the World Wildlife Fund, and here he is to tell us how we can save the tiger. Welcome, Dr. Paul Toyne.
Hello.
Thanks for coming on Raw TV today. Now, if we can start straight away, tell us how you're involved in the World Wildlife Trust.
Well, I work for WWF as a species conservation officer. That means tigers, because they're quite a high-profile species, is in my remit. So I work on them. So I help with public awareness and lobbying government officials and doing a number of activities that will hopefully make a difference and lead to the continual survival of a tiger.
Definitely. Now, why do you specialise in tigers? Is that preference, or is it?
Well, I actually had a training as an ornithologist studying parrots.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but the point about the tiger is that the tiger is found in a wide range of habitats. It's found from the Indian subcontinent all the way across to the Russian Far East. So, you know, the tiger's known by everybody. Even, you know, you learn about tigers, the Jungle Book.
Yeah.
You know, everything about the tiger, it's in our advertising, it's everywhere.
That's right.
So it's really important. It's one way of engaging people on some of the issues that are important for the survival of the planet.
Absolutely. Now, for those that don't actually know, where do tigers actually live?
Right, OK. Well, as I mentioned, tigers, the majority of tigers are found still in India. So they're found in the Indian subcontinent. That includes countries like, obviously, India, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh. Then if you were to imagine the world and go all the way across through Southeast Asia, countries like Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, tigers are found here. They're also found on the Indonesian island of Sumatra, and then across just to one small little area in the Russian Far East. That's where you find the Siberian tiger.
Over the place, aren't they? How many species of tigers are there?
Well, there's just one species, but what you've got to understand is there's different types of tigers.
Right.
So, you know, at the turn of the century, there was 8 types of tigers, and now we're down to just 5. In fact, we've lost the Bali tiger in the 1940s. We lost the Caspian tiger, and that's a tiger that actually used to live in Turkey, can you believe it? And so we lost that, you know, in the 1970s, and we've lost the Javan tiger again from an Indonesian island in the 1980s. So, you know, the writing's on the wall for a lot of these tigers.
And did you say there are 5?
There's 5 left, yes. And one's of particular concern, and that's the South China tiger, and that's down to something like 20 individuals in the wild. And they're not just found in, you know, one kind of like small forest. They're scattered all over the place. Yeah. So it's incredibly hard for them, you know, to come together to mate and to rear a family and everything. So that type of tiger is probably going to become extinct within the next 10 years.
Oh. What do you think about tigers being in a zoo? Do you think it's cruel, or do you think they're in the wildlife?
Well,
do you think they'll last longer in the zoo?
No, but what we have to understand is zoos playing a really important role in educating the people. I mean, for a lot of children in England or in Britain, it's their first chance to see a tiger in the wild and to understand how wonderful it is. So that's really important. However, you know, we've got to see tigers survival in the wild, and that means we've got to solve some of the problems that exist, which are threatening to tigers.
That's what I was going to ask. So how are WWF acting to save the tiger? Well,
the tiger's under threat really from two main kind of like fronts. One is habitat loss, and you hear about this all the time, you know, with, for example, the forest fires going up in Indonesia, or indeed the chopping down of tropical rainforests. That's one of the key problems for tigers. And tigers occupy large areas, so they need space. They need space not only just for themselves to roam, but also to find their prey.
Yes,
and that's the other thing. Obviously, when you have a reduction in habitat, you know, you also see people go into the forest and hunt deer and other things for themselves to eat. So that's one of the crucial problems. The other thing is, and this is really barbaric, is the fact that tigers are actually poached. They're actually killed.
I know, I've seen.
Not necessarily for their skins and furs now, but for their bones. And what we have here, and I've brought an example here, this is...
That's unusual, isn't it, for their bones? It's often for the fur, isn't it?
Well, the bones are actually used as an ingredient in traditional Asian medicine.
Right.
What we have to put this into perspective. I mean, 99% of, you know, ingredients are actually from herbs and from wild plants, which are not in danger. However, the tiger and indeed the rhino and other species are critically endangered. And unfortunately, the tiger, the bones ground down. And for example, for this packet here, it's bound down and ground down, and they use it for a plaster, which would then be put on your hip or on a bad joint.
Oh goodness me! Well, it sounds.
Well, this is all illegal.
Sounds, yeah, it does. I was going to say, it does sound illegal. Yeah.
countries have banned the trade in tigers.
Yeah.
However, what we need is proper enforcement.
Absolutely. Now, we at Raw TV have sponsored a tiger, haven't we? And this is Michaela here. And tell us about this picture. Tell us about this shot that was taken here.
Well, the point about that photograph is that it's extremely difficult to photograph a tiger in the wild.
Right.
And it's also very difficult to have a good understanding of their numbers and you know, their range and, you know, their behaviour.
Yeah.
So what we use now is infrared cameras. And so basically that tiger here has walked through a path, an infrared beam, which has set off the camera. And hence you've got this photograph.
Because it is very close, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Probably would only take technical equipment to do that.
Exactly, and WWF is monitoring tiger populations using this technique.
Right.
We're going to new reserves and finding out exactly how many tigers are left, for example, in Thailand or in Nepal and Bhutan. This particular tiger comes from Bardia in Nepal.
And now we can see on the certificate here, but how much does it cost to adopt a tiger a month?
It's £2 a month.
That's it. It's just a mere £2.
That's right. And those funds that are raised lead to the direct conservation projects to help save the tiger in at least 7 range countries in India, Nepal, in Thailand, in the Russian forest, for example.
Brilliant. Well, it's all going to plan, and I hope it works out for you, Paul. Dr. Paul Toyne, thanks for coming on to Raw TV today. Now, staying on the subject of all things Asian, here's TLC for